you may feel like it's you, but it's really not fully you. It's just amplified.
Intergalactic beings of multi-dimensional realities. Welcome to channeling.
Here we are.
Yeah, I know. Here we are. And so I just want to say, welcome, Natalia Grace. Welcome to channeling. To this podcast, you're going to be one of the first episodes in our new season, season 3. And so, welcome to channeling. And I wanted to start out beautiful. It's almost like what I'm feeling in this entries is almost like it's an island song. Does that make sense? It's like this beautiful, peaceful island song wants to be sung behind us. It's like let's just roll with the waves. Let's be. There's this kind of sense to me that's coming in, and that's kind of unusual. I haven't really connected with that for a while, so that's beautiful. I want you to just introduce yourself and talk about your opening to people, and now how you support people in their opening and in the depths of what they are. So I just want to offer the chair over to you to just talk about your opening for a little bit.
Sure. It's always interesting this part because biography or whatever it is not really my favorite part. Even like getting into like identities and labels. But I came into terms with that's something we have to use. And so the best way that I can actually describe what I do is that kind of navigate the holographic field, and I translate consciousness. So really these are the most potent words. So I have several offerings that I do. One of them is actually quantum energy work. And it's a technology that I received back in 2019 when I had a spontaneous light body activation. And the journey that I've actually gone through myself was the blueprint of that technology. So when I had my light body, I was going through it myself. And then I received literally the blueprint of how to do it. And that's a tool that I use really to support others go into the root of all that is in the quantum field. So everything exists, right? So it could be past, present, and future. But it's really going down to the root and that what I found was really potent even in my own journey is that there can be so many, recalibrations or reconfigurations that can happen on some sort of level in our field, but the pattern still keeps repeating on some level, or we keep bringing in the same situations to our lives, or even in the field we could bring in the same entities or whatever. And then I realized there was something that was missing, and that was the piece of actually really going to the root and unplugging that root somewhere in the field. And it could be, maybe past life, maybe childhood, maybe something else, maybe from the ancestry, and really plugging it out from there. So that's one thing. The other thing also that I'm very passionate about, and since I had my own light body activation, which I did not know what it was, and I did not have any guide, and I always say that if I did, it would have made my life much easier. But in that moment, from receiving all the different, I like translated my own process. And so I became, since that moment, very passionate to actually support other people when they have their own spontaneous light body awakening as well, and wondering what the hell is going on, because it's very, very intense. It can be very chaotic. So that's something else as well that I do. And also, I also help support people through journeys of activations, also in person through retreats that I host. Yeah, so that's a little bit
Wow.
about.
I loved how you talked about the patterns that keep on reoccurring and reoccurring, or we keep on experiencing. And this is something that's really dear to my heart, is how do we unravel the energetic loop, or how do we go into the space of where what a lot of people call shock, or the crisis, or whatever it was, the space where we chose to believe in an idea of separation. Perhaps a lot of times that's the way I find it or I see it. And then us really finding a way to invite it back into wholeness or invite ourselves back into wholeness. And this is a really beautiful thing, you know. It, I'm just saying that, and I'm recognizing this is what shamans do. And I've never been one to say I'm a shaman. And I don't know if you know, use that word at all, but this is a part of that work, you know. Um, and my Roshi from long time, you know, says, you know, I'm just untying knots. I'm unkinking hoses and I'm untying knots, you know, and it's us learning some specific skillful means that we can use that can become really powerful. And it doesn't work for everyone, but those that are attracted, hopefully a lot of them, it does assist. It's helpful.
Yeah, I feel that is an interesting journey because also I feel there were moments where I had experiences with people where I felt that by the end of it, they were not expecting to get that from the session that we worked together because they were maybe expecting another, they wanted to hear something, but then
Yeah,
they received something else, which is what they really needed maybe to receive.
yeah,
And in those moments, definitely that's why also I always make sure that, you know, the people coming in, they're understanding clearly what they're going to get from this. Not that in a way that where they're getting turned down, but to understand, like, is this really what you're looking for? And a big one, for example, with the energy work is like sometimes we want, like, unconsciously we really want to be in that space where we just want to be healed. We just want someone to
yes.
do the work for us, you know. And I feel like
Hmm.
all of us somehow we have, especially if we're dealing with something, it's like, ah, can you just get it over? Can you just remove that entity? You know, it's creating
Yeah,
havoc in my system. And I'm like, okay, make sure that that might happen in the session, but at the end of the day, this is for you to take the keys, to receive specific keys that you will have to make the change for yourself in your day to day. Otherwise, it might come back. And some people, they're not ready for it. Now, another thing, just to respond to your question, is that I realize in those moments, well, they have come to me for a reason. It happened. So sometimes, as much as it's like, okay, was that what was needed? They were supposed to be here, you know, maybe they were not needing my medicine, but I'm like, but they were here. So I have to
yeah,
just keep showing up in the way that I am and trust that it just literally unfolded, you know.
yeah. That's really beautiful. Um, to come back to that space. I I ultimately get to trust in faith that whatever occurs is for a reason. I had a recent experience with someone where I felt a really strong wall, a really strong block, and in the end, I was just really grateful for the experience because I recognized some of the wisdom that I had used before that I was not using then, and I also recognized myself as a continued student as well. And um, you know, the person said, yes, were things gained. Of course, they weren't what I thought we were going to go for. They weren't what I thought the you know, the session was going to arrive at, but they were received in other ways that I wasn't expecting, you know. So I'm always in a learning process as well. Um, and it's something that I get to constantly learn to lay down, you know, this expectation of that I know why we're sitting in front of each other. Because sometimes I don't know why we're sitting in front of each other. And the more I'm able to open and just simply be within the moment and allow whatever to come through, then I think the better off I am and the better off things happen in the session with someone. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, that's true. And that's why also I say, like, this really the realm, like the quantum realm, the energy realm, is really uncharted territory. And it's like, even as much as, like, let's say, okay, we're good at navigating it, we're good at what we do, because it's a gift that each one of us has in that realm, it's still uncharted territory. It's still an unknown, and like it's about refinement and becoming masters. So if we keep that mindset, even in our practices, that it's literally a vast ocean. It's the deep unknown, and every
Yeah.
opportunity is coming to refine us, to help us refine and become more and more of that mastery. That we're getting to.
No,
Yeah.
I love that. I loved how you talked about practices because this is something that my guides have been talking and encouraged me, like every day, really go and step into these different realms and really have experiences. Um, and as I do that, even if I'm not working with a client that day, that that experience will be very supportive of me with whoever I come across. But also it's just for myself. You know,
Yeah.
I hate to be all selfish and all, but it really is. I mean, it's about this journey that I'm walking on is really about my me coming into my wholeness or experiencing it or um, my mission. And so, like, I get to claim that the more I claim it, the more whatever is meant to happen, whoever gets to be a client or however that looks like, I think gets to show up for me. So. Um, I've talked to a lot of different practitioners recently, and um, everyone kind of has a different map, I guess you could say. Because my guides talk about different planes of existence. And so I'm curious is if there's a tradition that you like to follow, or if there's something, a specific training that you use, like when you enter in, or you're saying, okay, I'm going to enter into the dream world, I'm going to enter into this world, I'm going to enter into kind of the Akashic. How do you navigate that when you work with people?
Yeah, that is really interesting, because as much as I respect traditions, and I respect cultures, or I respect things that have come down, that we have received. My
Hmm.
journey has not been that, and it's really quite fascinating. It's not like I was seeking that. So from the beginning of my journey, I even living down in Peru, there's a lot of shamans, there's a lot of people with those kind of traditions, and never crossed path. Like it just literally never happened. So even with the blueprint that I received, it was literally just me receiving the blueprint from my own spirit, calling using my own words for it, and then along the way people would tell me, even including with my light body, like, oh, it's a Kundalini. It's like, oh, what is the I didn't even know. I thought Kundalini is just a type of yoga, that people
Hmm.
do. And then I was like, oh, okay. But still, like, I don't know. Sometimes I use it. Sometimes I'm like, I prefer not to, because there's specific things that within that tradition they believe that maybe not necessarily was my experience or other people's experiences. So it was kind of interesting. So or even with the energy work that I do, people are like, oh, like, so it's like kind of the Akash. And I'm like, oh, what is the Akash? So then I had to like read and learn about it. So it was kind of reverse, or like learning
Hmm.
that. But in terms of like the work that I do, like the quantum energy work, is like, yeah, we access the quantum field, what I call really the quantum, with the holographic field, where everything exists, past, present,
Hmm.
and future, all data, all information that can be extracted in any way that we want it. We want to extract it. So that's how I call it, and it's kind of feeling that it's really accessing higher dimensional space. It's a literal, it can be like a portal, because it can be felt when we've accessed it and when we've come out of it. Like it's literally a different space.
Oh my gosh, I love this, and I'm feeling an excitement because I feel like we get to enter that. But I love what you talked about with kind of like you discovering things along the way. You're working in a way, and then someone says, "Oh, is it like this?" And that's happened with me and my guides in different ways. A part of me has had some resistance in really becoming strong and kind of fully engaged in a specific tradition, because I have such a strong inner presence saying, really a lot of the work that I'm doing is learning to listen to myself deeper and deeper and deeper, and really coming to my own insight and wisdom and understanding. And yes, as I interact with other people, they can teach me things. But that was one thing that happened with the Akash, is that I was sitting there, just doing my channeling, and my guides were like, "We would like you to look into the Akash." And I'm like, "What?" I thought it was some, historic tablets, because people were like, read the Akash, or whatever. And I was like, I'm not going to read some ancient texts, or whatever. And then I looked into it and I was like, oh, this is the realm that I've been playing with already. And they're like, yeah, like this, they were telling me this is what a part of what you offer people. I just hadn't recognized it. I hadn't identified it. And how I enter in and explore the Akash is different than most every practitioner that I've met. So it's really interesting to feel that we each have this individual access. We each have this individual map and this individual way of opening up in wisdom. And so I'm excited because we're talking about quantum fields and the quantum plane, and I would love I would love to be guided by you in some kind of a, I don't know, some kind of a query. And whether you asking me a question and us going in and exploring, what feels good to you right now?
Mm, it feels a little bit of like an unknown right now. So I'm kind of checking
Mm-hmm.
in like what
Yeah.
is the inquiry
Mm-hmm.
exactly?
Yeah.
Or what is your intention? What are you looking for?
For me, let me pull in for me and see. My dragons are here. Um, and they're saying um they would like me to experience um more of, they're giving me a lot of information and I'm trying to translate it. Um, okay. So they're saying that I can work with you to identify some of the pain that I've been trying to um, release and heal, integrate in my heart, and that there is a way that you can connect to a kind of a lost portion of me, of something that just simply gets to be brought home. This is kind of the feeling, the sensation that I'm getting.
Hmm.
And I'm just feeling into it because I just see an image of a kind of this representation of a child in a kind of like in this space, and it's just empty. I mean, it's like they're alone on a planet, and it's almost like the moon. It doesn't have like a huge atmosphere or anything. It's just them there alone, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Um, okay, so that's interesting because never, yeah, it's really kind of moving towards shadow work.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it feels
Yeah.
like moving towards the shadow, really. And this is what a big part of the work also that comes up in the energy work is really like a lot of shadow work.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, I can see what wants to come out because also it's like, it's, for me, it's like important that it's like it's a sort of ceremony. It's like a full
Yeah.
journey, and sometimes sessions are like an hour and a half.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna see what wants to come out as maybe
Yeah.
few drops of messages, but not, you know, it's
Yeah.
like
It
just
can't
to
be a
keep.
full. Yeah.
But also, yeah, just to really respect, the container of that,
Yeah.
the energy process. Yeah. Yeah, maybe allow yourself just to drop into the body, just breathing through your heart. Yeah, so really immediately feeling it into actually the womb area. So there's some connection there between the womb and the heart. And it's really going down into some very strong trauma actually in the womb area that's coming up. And bringing out the theme from there of really the dance or dynamic between taking up space, holding space, playing small.
Hmm. I feel that. Whew.
And really linked there to proving, to something with proving. So like having to prove oneself, to allow maybe the space. So it kind of like that empowerment, but also the dynamics within life of like power struggles and power dynamics as well. Yeah, it's all of really stemming there into that trauma, very strong trauma in the womb, and seeing how it's actually playing out, because it allows, it's kind of taken out that inner translator, inner sensor of yourself, of knowing when it's like allowing yourself to fully stand in who you are and shine without necessarily needing to justify, explain, over exert any, bring in any sort of output, but just be there, be present, because deep down you know yourself, you know who you are, you're emitting out who you are at the core.
Wow.
And it kind of takes you out of like kind of those paradigms of extremes of like yeah, really feeling it there, paradigms of extremes of really like just too much, just seeing too much output of it, kind of seeing like the imagery of the teenager. Okay, it's a little bit of that teenager archetype, but really wanting to just, with a lot of exerting of energy and a bit disorienting and chaotic. And then there's this other extreme where it's kind of like that pulling in, pulling down, cocooning, shying away, hiding.
Hmm. There's something really amazing that I'm recognizing is that I I was born a twin and I was in the womb with another, and whatever I did really affected her, like just the minute things that I did and vice versa. You know, there was the sensation and it feel like that um, kind of that dynamic is something that I kind of bring with me, you know. So it was this oversensitivity, um, like some move that I could make could actually kill someone. Like, ooh, that's pretty. That is scary to me. I think that's It's part of that I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, it's really coming down to knowing what is your space, maybe identifying more and more your own energy field, your own space, so that then there's not much of a loss of that, where it's like back to, yeah, the words boundaries, right? Your own energetic boundaries. And it gets really lost there, you know, either in too much externalization, too much internalization. It's always like this push and pull kind of internal dynamic. And really getting to know your own energetic boundary, and really coming down to, from the womb, right, which is really also that center of, because really seeing right now that vortex as well, that is just spiraling out in from the womb all the way up, but really coming down to strengthening the give and receive, because this is what really the portal is down there, right? It's kind of that giving and receiving. And what's coming up is how to identify, is kind of really asking oneself with every single thing that you do, is what is the intention there? What am I wanting to receive from this? Is it really to fulfill my heart, to fulfill myself, or is there any sort of thread of like wanting to prove myself or receive validation or receive love from the external?
Mm-hmm. I just saw this beautiful thing. It was so great. I just saw this little kid. It 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 was it's hopped up on one of my dragons, but as it did so, it turned into like a little dragon. And the dragon is gonna like, it's like it's taking it, you know? It's like, okay, it's now time you can come and play, you know? That is so cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that, uh, emotional, spiritual, mental holding of yourself, kind of like that, wise woman, the strong woman that you are, is kind of in holding the inner child that is within you, rather than allowing the wounded child to play those patterns, right? Because it's the one that is really moving, that is the shadow inside the inner child that is moving those situations, moving those responses, those pulls, the push and pull. But instead, like, okay, allowing more of that empowered, wise woman, a powerful woman that you are, the one to be the holder and the container of that.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I'm seeing it in a new way. You know, it's like that's the space that's inviting experience through, not the injured, not the damaged child, you know, but I can be inviting experience in through that masterful, connected, full, enlightened self, but not necessarily ignoring, you know, the pain.
Yeah, and it's also allowing oneself to allow that to come through naturally from the organism, rather than from knowledge or the mind, of what we think it is, because that's where it gets really, it can get entangled there, because it's like, oh, but that is what I know of, let's say, boundaries, or that is what I know about, being in my wise self or my wise archetype. But actually
Yeah.
it's really a natural internal intimacy. You know, it's like this intimate, raw aspect of yourself that is not pulled out by what the mind is, or even like the spiritual matrix that we've kind of created on ourselves, you know, and the the spiritual musts, you know, that we have.
I have to, I need to. This is what that looks like, right? You know, like if I'm wise, then I act in this way, but it's not that. Like I love what you said. It's just very natural. It's just very an intimacy. It's a connection that I'm feeling here. It's so lovely and just so sweet. So I'm just staying here with that, just so that I can that piece, that aspect is feeling into that love, that loving nature. It's just being really cared for right now. Because all of, you know, the more I do this work, the more I really have so much compassion for the innocence of all that we are trying to figure out and, you know, take on some kind of a understanding of having an identity, trying to figure out how things work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we come into this world and we're like, whoa, you know, and really innocently, you know, we're just trying to figure out and survive and do the full round of really connecting and coming back to understand, oh my God, you know, I am part of this oneness, you know. And it's like, it's quite the journey that we are embarked on, you know. It's really quite a journey. That was really lovely. I'm coming back, and me from my dragon essence bows and thanks you, Natalia, for that experience. That was beautiful. When I started entering in, you know, I just felt all of this information just, you know, just like going through it. And that was quite lovely to feel that open, you know. For you, as when you're working, just a curiosity, when you're working in this field, do you receive visuals? I mean, what is the sensation for you? Do you really feel it heavily in your body? Is it some kind of envision, or how do you experience it?
Yeah, I would say it's both for sure. I mean, I feel like my system just connected and fused with the person that I'm working with. So I start feeling everything that they're feeling physically as well. So like my womb, like immediately just, you know, I could feel myself. And that's why like after that, I just disconnect as well from, you know, not to feel it. But also visions. I get visuals as well. Sometimes words that just pop up. Specific codes as well sometimes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that with me and for everyone here. Everyone here is kind of getting a taste of, you know, sometimes people have a certain idea of what this kind of work looks like, right?
Yeah.
They think, okay, you're going to go and you're going to just be chanting and, you know, you this and that, but it shows up in so many different forms and in so many different ways. And I just loved that you were able to share that, because I could feel this was very unique to you, Natalia. Like you know, it's like, oh, this is Natalia's work, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it wasn't like, you know, like you talk about, you weren't trained by someone else to do it in a certain way. And so it feels like this is you completely owning it. You know, it's your treasure. It's, you know, it's really, really lovely to feel that. That's so cool.
These are nice words. Beautiful words. I never heard of them before or thought of them this way. But yeah, beautiful words. Yeah.
What else gets to be shared? They're saying that you get to talk about what you're excited about and moving forward in your life. So, what's coming for you? What's your life looking like now, and what are you excited about?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would really say just fully stepping into my purpose, like fully, and really expanding that, and really doing my purpose, my mission, my impact. Like my mission is different. I kind of also break that down because yeah, the mission is for me to be alive. So I would say these are the two things. Like there's a personal expansion that I'm really excited about, which is just to really align my entire life to what is makes me feel the most alive. That's the best way I can put it. And the second thing is with my purpose, which is, working with others and just bringing more of that impact out and that influence. That's really the two main things that are right now in my life. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing what you have with me today. That was really lovely for me and for my guides. And especially at this time in the kind of the year, it's like we're in a pretty intense time with kind of this window that's open right now. And a lot of people are kind of being rebirthed, and I'm feeling it a lot.
Yeah.
I'm feeling that rebirth. And I think that there's some kind of message that I would love to share with people who are feeling kind of this intense shifting in their lives. And I would love to hear from you. You know, what kind of words could you offer them if they're feeling this intense shift in their lives and they're not sure what to do because it just even them getting up and trying to function can be a challenge sometimes. What what words would you offer to someone feeling that right now? Uh,
That is a very big one, especially that I would say that this week, maybe in the last 10 days. I mean, I did the last energy update I did was talking about the energetic reset that we're gone through. So, and that's definitely playing out. But in the last, I would say 10 days, there's been this very clear coding of where the energy is like this, and it can really be expressed in any way. Every person might feel it in a different thing, where it could be a heightening of thinking of the future, or worrying, or anxiety, or any sort of thing that's really like this. And then there's this finding this internal, and that is very different for every person. But I would say this is the key right now, because that is, you may feel like it's you, but it's really not fully you. It's just amplified. And so in other words for it, it's really kind of finding the space where there's the internal energy within that is kind of chaotic and that is wanting to hold on to something. And that is really like the shadow. It's either wanting to hold on to something from the past and it's not willing to let go, and it's kind of grasping onto that, and we feel like we're wearing all those weights. Or it could be holding on to something, a future timeline, and not ready to let go. So it's really, there's a panicky energy, and we feel that in the collective also. There's a lot of panic because there's a lot of unknown. Which timeline could be playing out? What is going on? So there is all that. And it's really that space where, first and foremost, just focus on what's in front of you. And I think that's an understatement, because we always say, like, come back to the present moment. But okay, if you can, that's fine. But it's really focus right now. What is it that you can take responsibility for in your day-to-day reality, in your moment? And really bringing that boundary, placing that boundary of like not jumping into the future, not fully, if there is something that needs to be revisited in the past, doing it in like that ceremonial state, that intentional state, in the intention, I want to let go. I want to expand. I want to bring this, because everything is really going to be like that collapse. And there's funny, you were saying that ocean in the beginning, right? Or that it's really like feels like
Yeah.
just waves clapping from all ends. And it's kind of like, now how can you find that space, identify with yourself where you are playing within those dynamics, you know? And it could be as simple as sometimes like pushing ourselves towards something. We want to force a specific timeline, we want to force an outcome, we want to push ourselves to do more, and it's like, you know. And it's like, how can I come back into surrender, come back into effortlessness, come back into, as much as there's this chaos that is internally generated and externally, what can I do right now? It could be as simple as, you know, drinking a tea and saying, you know what, just for this moment, I'm gonna and just drink my tea. You know, just give an example. But it's really this right now, and notice that dynamic, notice that pull of the old that wants to control, push, force, and coming back into effortlessness. How can I come back into trust, really trust? There's and asking, is there much that I can do right now? Can I take responsibility for something? Can I change something in my reality right now? And if the question is no, not really, okay, then just come back into trust, come back into surrender. Yeah.
I love that. I love that, coming back to trust, you know, and I think there is a tendency, and this is a tendency that has been trained in a lot of ways, genetically and otherwise, just like of the pattern of, you know, we're acting upon trying to resolve an anxiety or a nervousness or something that we think is wrong. But if we can stay in this essence of trust, say, can I trust? Or am I feeling this trust? And as I breathe and I'm feeling this trust, do I then feel like I have to act in that way? Because normally, really, we don't. You know, we really don't. There's actually nothing to really resolve. It's just us actually really trying to resolve an inner story or a dialogue that that's been deeply ingrained into our psyche. And so really coming back to, I love it, am I acting too? Am I acting in trust too? Like, am I feeling inspired rather than like I have to do something
Exactly.
to resolve this anxiety? All of these kinds of awarenesses, us practicing and being able to ask ourselves these kinds of questions in a space of stillness, being able to say, it's okay, I can be still here and think, and I don't have to drive myself crazy because I have to take care of XYZ, DEFG, you know, every little thing that I think is wrong. Just being able to be in that oneness, or even invited in, you know. I think sometimes if someone says, yeah, I can't be still because I just feel all that anxiety, you know. But we can also, and something that we can recognize is, we can ask within ourselves in a deep way to have access to the experience of oneness, or ask for assistance so that we can feel in the moment oneness in whatever way we can. And as we do that, I think it's kind of this journey that I'm hearing from you of deep trust, you know, that you went through when you opened. It's like we get to do that for ourselves. Like we get to open up and discover our own abilities and our own wisdom. And like how we do that is we say, oh, I'm supposed to have all this intelligence in me. Okay, I'm going to trust, and I'm just going to ask, is there some way now that I can feel that even a little bit more? How about now a little bit more? How about a little bit more with my next breath, and a little bit more with my next breath? And just being with ourselves in that way and allowing us to open. So it's not like, well, now I'm here and I'm feeling anxiety. This must not be true that I am, you know, I am oneness and I can feel this, but really allowing ourselves that process of just trusting and open a little bit more. I think that can be, I don't know, maybe that can be someone's ticket. Maybe that's something that will help someone open and access that when they're under a lot of stress, they're feeling a lot of stress from all of these shifts, all of these changes that they're going
Yeah,
through.
100%. And also, like, kind of noticing what is, because we are, that's the thing, is like when we're not, awakened, or we're not conscious, of things, of what the subtlest shifts in our reality. So sometimes things just happen to us. And like, the thing is that we're becoming more and more sensitive. So that's why
Hmm.
sometimes I say, is it really yours? In what sense do I mean? Because you're also doing that work. You're opening up also to feeling the collective more. It doesn't mean that people
Yeah.
that are not on the path, they're not feeling it. I believe that it's two aspects, just that they're not aware, and they're numbed down, and they're, coping with other things and using other things to cope. But so noticing, it's like this kind of this task of really being so mindful of what triggered that anxiety. And when you're saying
Mm.
asking, where is that anxiety coming from? And then seeing that sometimes maybe it could be something that maybe we picked up on the external, but then our mind starts feeding off of it as well, and then just amplifies and takes us onto a rabbit hole of whatever it is.
Yeah.
But everything is just so subtle that we just feel like we've just been overwhelmed and taken off by this anxiety. But if we're able to break it down, where did it come from? What is my mind telling me right now? And is there a part of me that believes that I cannot change what I'm feeling? You know?
Mm.
Because
Mm.
sometimes the anxiety, we fear the anxiety itself, and that it's the fear itself is what also keeps us in it, because we feel like we have no control, like we're being controlled by it, we have no control over it. But it's not really that. And it's also not like a fight. It's not a fight, because also the more we resist it, the more it's going to be stronger and amplified. It's really this inquiry. Like, if we take it as an inquiry with curiosity, like, oh, okay, so I'm anxious right now. Okay, what happened? And each one has their own way. It could be journaling, it could be voicing out, it could be just with your own thoughts, whatever it is. But taking it as an inquiry, because that allows you to get to know yourself a little bit better, get to become more owning more of your sensitivity. That it could be you just went somewhere and you came back anxious, where you're like, but I always go there, why am I anxious? So noticing what are those subtle shifts that are happening in my reality.
Mm. I love that. This curiosity and sense of inquiry. Um, because if we are coming from a space of recognizing, we are naturally we can naturally know our balance, and when we feel a little off, it's something more of curiosity rather than now I'm terrible, that's me, it's just saying, okay, I'm experiencing kind of this interesting thing that's different, and then kind of inquiring about what the change may be. And sometimes, really, we may not have a complete answer, but even just being in inquiry helps open our system, and it
Right.
kind of helps bring balance into the system naturally. Because we are what we are. We're infinite love, we're infinite gratitude. We're always going to want to try and seek balance. And if we're open enough and we're curious enough, then that can naturally be occurring,
Yeah.
as we just simply open and say, oh, that's curious. I wonder, uh, you know, is that something I need to take care of? I don't know. I don't even know what it was, um, and that kind of a thing. And so being able to just acknowledge, like, we don't have to make it something. Like, we don't have to do the hard work. It's naturally, like, we're in a system that naturally wants to help it resolve if we're open enough to acknowledge that. And sometimes there's some deep things that are coming through, and it may feel like it feel like maybe it will feel like it's getting worse because something is actually pulling through that's really coming into a healing process.
Yeah.
But once we allow it to move through, then we sit in our space and we're like, oh, okay. There's much more harmony and balance now, you
Yeah.
know? And I think I'm constantly in that play, because I'm just a very playful being and entity. I'm exploring all kinds of different things, and constantly I'm like, where am I? Oh, okay, well, let me get myself back. Okay, Where's my balance now? Okay, because I go into a lot of different explorations. Um, and this is me saying, "It's okay, Gwen. I love you." I'm such a curious being, but just recognizing that I can pull myself once again just back into center. I'm here. No need to like go to extremes. Um,
Right.
and it is all good. It is all well.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that I just felt more of my curious nature. Just loves exploring. It's so funny. It's enjoying that. Well, I'm so grateful that you joined me here on Welcome to Channeling. Before we leave, I'm just checking in with my guides and seeing, do we get to end with a channeling? Yeah, sure. They would love to offer a little bit of a channeling for us before we leave. I'm gonna just do a little drink. Ah, water is always good. So I feel like I'm calling in what I call my center column. The name that I have right now is the analyum, and this is kind of my center core experience of connecting with my higher self at this time. And let's see what they have to say, or I have to say. Yes, we are here in love. We appreciate the attention of this Natalia Grace, so full of grace, so full of kindness, so full of love, so full of willingness to simply show up in honesty and integrity, not needing to be anything for anyone else, but simply be herself. And so her light shines. Her light shines honestly and is integrous. So therefore, we compliment her for her attendance and attention here today. We encourage her in her life and her vision of stepping forward, connecting and working with others, for she will be a blessing to them. She will acknowledge and understand the spaces where she belongs, where she fits, where she, like a key, turns the turns and unlocks a great potential for the experiences of all involved. And she is welcomed in. We are excited, Gwen, that you have connected this experience with the water, with the waves, with the ocean now at this time. And we see her becoming stronger even further with her identity of quote unquote guides, her identity and connection with her spirit family, people that she will mm, go on adventures with. We say this in a kind of hidden way, for there will be soon a time when she thinks back and remembers these words, and she says, "Ah, that is what she meant. That is what they meant." For there are those playmates who are ready to be alive and vibrant with you and are ready to enjoy vibrant adventures. We also would love to bring your attention to the space that you visited today, Gwen. This is a space that you may visit at any time. It is a space, a realm, where you may see into the honesty of what has been left for you to claim. And so you now know this territory and you may visit here at any point. But we say you and your entity and your true beingness, you're always safe. And whatever is happening here or has happened here is of no, it will not claim you in any way. It is simply a sphere for you to be able to illuminate that which you get to pay attention to, that which you get to integrate, to understand, and to see. And this way you may visit these things and not feel overwhelmed. This is a tool that we have offered you, and we encourage you to use it at any time. We are happy that your presence with this Natalia has helped unlock this space for you. For this is the magic of working with others, is that you offer keys, simple energies which help open others to the depths, to the many planes of existence, to the many opportunities of discovery within each other. So this is another one of those keys for you, Gwen. We are thankful once again for your presence, Natalia. We encourage you and we support you in your life. And we say, aho, dear sister, and you have been a sister, and we have been a relation many a time before. And we say, walk forward, leap forward, dance forward, and bloom on, dear one, bloom on. Aho. So there you are, Natalia.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you for having me here today. It was fun to play, to dance.
Yes, it was fun.
Click the link below to receive your very own free soul play meditation, reboot, or soul song. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Welcome to Channeling. Till the next episode, own your stage and play on. Hot Muffin Media.